So this is one side of our leather lip complete. Now we need to do the other part, and it will line up exactly the same way. So let's pop our screws in the other side, again ignoring the first one and the last one. So start here, and again add a small amount of wood glue just inside each Chicago screw. But now, if I zoom out, what we need to do, so we have our screws and we have the lip to attach on the other side, and we can line this up, but we just need to do it one by one. And we can do this flat on the table and just slowly work our way down the inside, winding them on by hand and then tightening them up. So that's the first one done, and I now just need to work my way down the other side. You can do this also by holding it, maybe with one of your hands on the inside, winding them on by hand, and then tightening them up with the screwdriver to make this lampshade kind of shape. So just two more to do. I can probably get these from the top. I'm working very quickly, so do please pause the video and go at your own pace. So I'm just going to tighten all these up by using the screwdriver included in your kit. It's a nice small mini screwdriver, so you can get into all these hard to reach parts. So just double check all your screws have gone as far as they can go, and then you will be able to tell from one side because they won't be sticking out. So we've got that lovely detailed edge now. It's what we'd call a buttered edge in the leather trade, where two edges are buttered together and things are either stitched or riveted down either side. So it's a very nice seam. Sometimes you'll hear it being called a taped seam also. So that's our shape starting to come together. We have our lock already in place. So now it's time to do this job, which is the longer row of holes that you would have seen when it was flat. And we now need to attach our base to that. This is where you need to look really closely. So if you're holding your base like this on the table, what you need to look for is the middle point of this base. It can be a bit hard to tell. You can fold it over just to see, and you'll notice that on one side the middle is in between two of these petals, and on the other side the middle is right in the middle of one of the petals. So one of them is in between the middle point, and one of them is right in the middle of a petal. So we need to look for this area So that's where the middle point is, right in between two petals. So if we imagine this divided in half, it's very much like that. So I'm just double checking for the middle point. So yes, so I can see the middle point with the two in between the two petals is this one here. I never use my ruler to show you. That is the middle point of this base piece. So the middle goes over one of the petals and on one side in between two. So these two petals are the ones that we need to focus on, not this one. So I'm going to pop 2 screws in the finished side so you can see. This is the piece we need to focus on, and these 2 screws that are symmetrically both opposite the middle point. This one is right in the middle. These are the ones that we're going to start with. And these 2 screws, let's pop a bit of wood glue in. These 2 screws correspond to these 2 holes, this one and that one. And this is where we start to construct the base. So those 2 screws align to that part of the bag. That's why we need to accurately find the middle point and not adding them there or there, but starting exactly symmetrically. So as we get round the base of our bag, we won't get a distorted shape. So again, we can actually do this flat on the table for the first 2 screws, lining them up to that middle part that we've just done and adding them there. So we start right from the middle. You might feel the need just to lift this edge of the leather lip up slightly so you can fit in your screw, or you might just get away with it just right next to it. Sometimes the sizes of the screws can vary ever so slightly on the back. So as long as you can find this point, you will have no problems. So take some time finding the accurate middle point and those 2 symmetrical petals either side. We can, while it's flat, do 2 more of these flat. Let's just pop a little bit more wood glue inside, and we can just about do these last 2 ones flat, which makes it easier to do it flat. After this, we will need to hold the bag and do the rest in 3D as the bag begins to take shape. So we'll just stretch those over, tighten them up before we move on. We don't want any loose joins. And now, from either direction, we can work our way around. We don't want to do this in bits and parts because you will get trapped in the order of manufacture. So we just need to choose one side that's more comfortable for you to start working our base around. Before we do that, I would just pre-bend these over so the leather can start to mold with the heat of your hands. and it'll start to take shape. If you do this, it's also easier because it's not going to be resisting the shape as you're trying to get the screws through. So you can start from this side, or you can start from this side and work your way around, whatever's comfortable for you. I normally add 4 or 5 as I'm going for ease. Again, I'm always popping a little bit of wood glue inside. And then now, I just want to fold them over. And it'll start taking shape. I often have my hand inside the bag, but you might be able to do it from the outside. It's really about finding a way that's comfortable for you. Everybody is a little bit different. Maybe you do crochet or knitting, so you'll have a preferred way of holding your work. And we do this all the way until we meet the end. So I'm going to go through the whole process with you and talk about some of the areas that might start to get a bit challenging. At this part, you might want to have a tea break, give your hands a rest. It can be hard to hold this leather. It's a very high quality, firm leather from the Netherlands, from a sustainable tannery. So it's a very firm, thick leather that lasts a long time. So do give your hands a break. If they're feeling sore, have a cup of tea. But I'm going to move on to the next 5. I've designed the holes so they should fit exactly. These holes are slightly bigger just to make it easier for you to find the corresponding side. These holes are exactly 4mm, which is the width of the Chicago screw. These are 5mm, just to give you a bit of help in finding the hole on the other side. So again, I'm working with my hand inside, just tightening them up as I go. If you tighten them all up at the end, that can be hard to reach in. And it's starting to resist a bit more, so it's getting a little bit tougher. Now that I get halfway around, it also gets harder to see what you're doing. So sometimes I'll be doing things by feel alone. You can use a torch from your iPhone or any device to shine a light inside so you can see, especially if your leather is black on the inside, it can be very hard to see. So you just keep working your way around in whatever way is comfortable for you. And that's the last one of this 5, and then I'll continue to add some more. And as you can see, the lovely shape is starting to come together and close around the side. It gets quite difficult when we get to the end, a bit more fiddly to do, but we're still fine so far in this bit. It just gets a little bit more challenging when you get to the end. So again, just folding over. Using both hands. Have one hand inside, but you can also get a hand in here, but it's starting to get more narrow. So it's getting a bit more challenging. I'm also trying to do this at an angle that you can all see, so it's a little bit harder for me because I'm doing it in a way that's a bit unnatural for me. So as you'll notice, it starts to get a bit harder. So making sure you're giving your hands a rest as you get to these final stages on this piece. I have one more on this row, and then I'll probably pop all my last screws. I can also start to work this way if I can no longer see very well inside. So nearly there now with this lovely seam detail. So let's pop the last few screws for this base on the bucket bag inside the base. Add our glue, which is optional. You don't have to add this glue, but over time it will just lock the screws, so you never need to find a replacement or if one comes loose. So now I'm working more by feel. I can just see through the small gap that's left. I can just see enough. Or I can look from the inside and then winding them all by hand and just tighten them up with the screwdriver. So I'm working in a slightly different position now, where I'm reaching in from the top, because that's easier for me. You might find an easier angle for you. You just have to do it in a way that's more comfortable for you when you get to this difficult stage. And again, just take your time. Just tighten them up as you go, so you can remember which ones have been done. And you can always double check later on by just going around with your screwdriver. And just checking that all nice and tight. So So we've got the last 5 to do now, so I'm going to hold that petal over. I can feel the screw on the back. So I'm just going to hand wind these last 4 or 5 and then tighten them up on the inside, just while I have the bucket bag held in a good position. And the last 2 can be a bit challenging to line up, so make sure you're giving your hands a rest. And there we have it, we're up to the last one. On this part of the bucket bag, which is the base and the body. And I'm just going to go inside and tighten up the last 5 that I did by hand, like so. Okay, so that is the body and the base of our bucket bag done. The next stage and the next holes we need to focus on is 1, 2, 3, 4. Not these, not them, but just these 4, which correspond to where we place the flap of the bag. So to begin with, we would pop the finished side of the studs in the flap. We would lie that flat. Again, optional with the glue, but I recommend it. Then we can line these up to the middle part of the bucket bag. You can work flat as well. Tighten them up. If you need to move this leather tab out of the way a little bit, just lift it up slightly with your finger, like this. Now we can bring our other screw and slide it over to the other side, which makes a secure join for the flap and the top of the bag. We can now add number 3. And the last one, number 4, will fit in the last hole. Sometimes you might just need to stretch it over a bit more because of the 3D shape. And there we have it. This is the finished body, base and flap of the bucket bag with all our hardware in place. And now we're going to move on to the strap. So in your strap pieces, you will have a long piece with 2 holes and lots of the same small hole that we'd use to put inside a buckle. The smaller piece has like dot, dot, dash, dot, dot, and dot, dot. This is the area that we're working on. And this is the area that we need to focus on, the dot, dot, dash, dot, dot. Now we will need your buckle. We have a roller buckle, which has a roller on one side and a pin on the other side, and the pin automatically points in one particular direction. It has a small angle in the bottom of the pin that points one particular direction. So this is the right side of the leather. This is the wrong side, so we're looking at the right side of the leather, and with the pin pointing towards the leather, we want to put it over the first hole, and you can see the pin is pointing that way. So we put the buckle over the first hole, over the second hole, but before we get to the dash, we want to push the pin through the dash so it sits there, and on the other side you can see the pin is closed onto the buckle. So again, so this pin has an angle this way, so that's where it should sit on the strap. Now these two holes either side correspond with each other, so we would add a screw, the finished side, not on this side with the little tab, but on the longer side of the leather. Just do the first one, add a bit of glue, for safety a screw, but before we add another screw, we want to use our keeper, which is flat on one side, the side we don't want to see, and rounded and polished on the other side. So we want the rounded and polished side to be with the leather, and the back to be with the back of the leather. It's got a little split in so you can see, and we feed that all the way down until we get to here. Then we lift that up and place it in between those two holes. Now we can pop our last screw, bit of glue and a screw. Use our screwdriver, and that is a classic buckle detail. If you want to make dog collars or belts or other craft products, it's a really nice pattern to use for those types of items. You might even want to trace around this pattern to use in future craft projects before you put it together. So now we have our buckle side done. The longer strap, the one with the many holes, you can feed it through. So the reason why we had a dash is because we have a pin. So the dash allows the pin to pivot. So we can pivot that out the way, put our strap through, and we can also feed it through the keeper. It's a bit easier to do when you're wearing it, but it's a bit hard to do when it's just flat. So now we have our strap, and we can now attach it to our bag. So we have enough screws left to piece this together on that side and the other side on the other side, and that will make our strap. You just need to check which side do you want the buckle to be on. Do you want it to be on this side or that side? So it depends what side you will wear your bag on and what side you want to see the buckle on. Some people like to see the buckle on the front of their outfit, sometimes they like to see it on the back. So just before you screw this in, just check and test what side of your body will you wear this bag on and what side will you attach the strap. I normally, as standard when I make products, is I attach the strap that has the buckle more prominent onto the left side of the bag. So if you're not sure, as a guide, buckle on the left side of the bag. If you wear things differently and you want to check, it can be on the right side as well. There's no right or wrong with this, but just as standard for how I do it, the buckle part I'm going to put on the left. So screw, glue, open this bag, and we attach it from the right side, and the same process again. One side done. Try and keep the strap even and not twisted, so it'll be comfortable. And now we have our last two screws for the bucket bag craft kit and workshop. And we can now pop those in. And drum roll, you can tighten up these screws. And your bag is ready to take on an adventure. So that's the strap attached, our locks from earlier, all the body parts all interlocked together, and there you go. That's the complete bucket bag craft kit workshop. You can also see the difference here between two different colorways. So if you're choosing chrome or brass, you can see the different type of look that you'll get with that hardware.